Hello all, a very good day to all of you. This is Vilasini from Veranda IAS. So friends, இன்னைக்கோட editorial analysis வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா we will be discussing an important topic from the date 6th August 2025. Right? So in the context இருக்கிற importantான editorial topics நம்ம பார்க்க போறோம். Right? So now in this context, before we start, there is also one information for all of you. Starting from Monday, right, optional orientation classes ஆரம்பிக்குது. இது பத்தின details will be attached in the description as well as the comment section. So please go through it, and if you have any concerns, feel free to call out the number also which is being mentioned in the description. Yes, so with this, let us straight away get into the editorial discussion for the day. So in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, the topic that we are going to be discussing is a topic on international relations. So உங்க GS paper 2ல IR features as an important topic. So in the topic that we will be discussing today is about India's presence and a global template of geopolitics, which means நம்மளுக்கே தெரியும், right, இப்போ இருக்கிற current geopolitical situation is not very great, right? The stand of US, the stand of Russia, the stand of China, right? What are the different changes which are happening? Apart from that, across the world, wars are also taking place. Israel-Palestine conflict வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா is largely in news. Russia-Ukraine conflict is in news, right? So ஏகப்பட்ட changes நடக்குது. And yes, as a country, how does India secure its interest? And how do we navigate these geopolitical tensions and make the best out of it? So இதுதான் வந்து இந்த editorial analysis ஓட major discussion. So in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, there are few things that we will be discussing in detail. So here, before we analyze every editorial, we have to remember code approach, right? So idu patti we have already seen. So again, let's discuss. So here, before we start, yes, talking about code. Okay, so one thing I want you all to keep in mind, code basically means CODE. So in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, C stands for core issue. C stands for core issue. O stands for opinion. O stands for opinion, right? D வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it talks about data, and E வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா is nothing but editorial takeaways, right? Editorial takeaways. So in the context, talking about major editorial takeaways, you will have ICES approach, where I basically stands for issues, right? C வந்து talks about causes, and E வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா it talks about effects, and on the other hand, if we even talk about S வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா it talks about solutions, it also talks about suggestions, it talks about way forward. So in the context CODE, right, இதுதான் வந்து, this is one force fit model, not exactly a force fit model, but this is more of a model in which we will be analyzing the editorial takeaways. In the model வந்து not necessary it has to apply to all editorials the same way, because சில editorials you may not have strong opinions, சில editorials data deficit இருக்கலாம், so it depends. But on the other hand, editorial takeaways, your issues, causes, effects, இதுதான் வந்து நீங்க மேஜரா அனலைஸ் பண்ணணும். Now ஒரு சப்ஜெக்ட்டுக்கு கொஞ்சம் மாறலாம். For example, in the context of GS paper 3 related topics, issues, causes, effects, measures. In the context of GS paper 2, causes, impacts, measures, yes. Advantages and disadvantages, examples, இது கூட you have to keep in mind. So இப்போ வந்து this is a GS paper 2 IR topic. So yes, different countries oda relationships and its implications on India. இது வந்து is a favorite area of UPSC when it comes to international relations, right? So here, knowing this, understanding this in detail is also very, very important. So now in this context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, let us understand a few things. So here, the author of this editorial has basically said, Operation Sindoor நடந்து முடிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் the reality of many countries became evident to India, right? So if you see diplomatic relationships, right, how different countries engage with each other, the friends, the allies, the enemies, etc., right, is a very beautiful concept. So in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, here the author says, after Operation Sindoor, right, many countries which India thought would sideline with India, right, against counter-terrorism, many countries fail to comment. So this shows the true colors of many countries, which means world பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா every country is operating on its own self-interest. So here, looking at a multipolar world, India should also look after its own self-interest. So in the context வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா many things have been discussed. For example, with regard to Trump and strained US relationships of India, right? Economic ties are irkalam, Trump not liking India becoming close with Russia, all this has been cited. Next வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா we're also talking about China factor, right? We're talking about China factor, where in the context வந்து the author has clearly said that China is trying to improve or enhance its presence in South Asia, right? So China trying to cripple economies. On the other hand, China's assertive policies, be it the Belt Road Initiative, right, and also be some of its unfair ways of capturing domestic markets, அது எல்லாமே இங்க சைட் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. அதோட if we see Western double standards, right, Western double standards, for example, European Union இருக்கட்டும், right, or even if you take the context of US, what is so surprising is US is imposing tariffs on India, citing that US is not happy with India importing energy resources like say crude oil and also military from Russia, especially with Russia Ukraine taking place. But idhula enna highlight nu pathina, US itself is procuring uranium from Russia, right? European Union வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்தியாவோட அதிகமாக they are getting coal, petroleum, natural gas. So in the context there is a high level of Western double standards, right? So this is also discussed over here. Next வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா they've also spoken what should be India's way ahead, right? So yes, ஒரு multipolar world, there are big countries like US, Russia, right? India is also on the verge of becoming the third largest economy. 2047 பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா we have an idea called as Vikshit Bharat, correct? Vikshit Bharat. ஸோ இந்த ஐடியா பற்றி நம்ம டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம், ரைட்? வி வாண்ட் டு பிகம் அ $1 trillion எக்கனாமி, வி வாண்ட் டு பிகம் எம்பவர்ட், ரைட்? ஸோ இந்த மாதிரியான நிறைய விஷயங்கள் இருக்குது. ஸோ ஹவு ஷுட் வி டைவர்சிஃபை ஆர் ரிலேஷன்ஷிப்ஸ், ஹவு ஷுட் வி மேக் ஆர் presence strong in the Asian subcontinent, and how do we look after ourselves, right? ஸோ இதுதான் வந்து way forward. So yes, over here if we try to incorporate the code approach, right, CODE, context வந்து என்ன? How should India look after its own interest in a changing geopolitical world? Number one, opinion. Author வந்து ஏகப்பட்ட opinions கொடுத்திருக்காங்க as to how India should look out for its interest, right? What is happening with regard to India's relationship with US, India's relationship with China, இது எல்லாமே இங்க சைட் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. Talking about data, right? Lot of data, for example, tariffs 25% இதை பற்றி பேசியிருக்காங்க. Next one வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா they've even spoken about LNG pipelines, etc. Europe receives 51% of Russian LNG exports, right? இது எல்லாமே are some data that we have. Takeaways வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா what has been the overall impacts of different countries and its implications on India, and how should India look after its own interest, right? So இதுதான் code. So in the context if we start analyzing this one by one, number one, the current geopolitical order is highly fragmented. India has to look out for its own interest, right? So yes, different countries வெச்சு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா let's talk about US. So US, if you see Trump is an American nationalist. Trump believes in making America great again, and Trump was earlier a businessman. So Trumpoட ideology எப்படி இருக்குன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா America first policy, right? So here வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா he has been imposing retaliatory tariffs, right? So 25% tariffs, and yes, இப்போ latest-ஆ பார்த்தீங்கன்னா it has also been pushed forward to 50%. So here this seems very unfair and unjustified, right? So இந்த மாதிரியான effects have been put on India because he is not happy with India's close relationships with Russia, right? So இது வந்து அவர் சைட் பண்ணியிருக்காரு. Next one வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா we have our very own neighbor China, who's creating a great problem for us. So in the context of பார்த்தீங்கன்னா China's closest relationship with Pakistan, China engaging in the Belt Road Initiative in the name of infrastructure, China doing what is called as the string of pearls, right? China trying to influence its position in the South China Sea, China trying to capture the markets of different countries, right, through unfair trade practices, இது எல்லாமே இன்னொரு problem that India is facing. Not talking about Pakistan, we all know how difficult it is for India to deal with Pakistan, right? Terrorism is one major reason that we are still suffering till today, correct? So terrorism, and how many countries have double standards on counter terrorism, அதுவும் வந்து is highly evident. Next one வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ongoing geopolitical tensionsனால how is India affected? Russia Ukraine war, what has been the impact on India? Israel Palestine conflict, what has been India's position with regard to it? What has been India's take on it? இது எல்லாமே ஏகப்பட்ட changes are happening in the world. So next என்ன சொல்றாங்க, இந்தியாவோட aim என்ன? Number one, India wants to look out for its own interest. Our goal is clear, 2047 Viksit Bharat, $1 trillion economy, right? Try to grow, progress and become better. Influence our position in the Asian continent, right? Become a global power, become a global leader. This is what India strives for. And in the context, number one, we don't want to go with what many countries say. We want to look out for our interest. Strategic autonomy, that is what we are seeking. Dependence vandaan, we don't want to depend on US or Russia or China. Let us look out for our own interest. Let us become self-reliant. Let us become Atmanirbhar. That is one thing that India wants. Next one, economic angle paranga. We are trying to come up with many initiatives, Stand Up India, Startup India, right? MSME sector ku kudukra benefits, exports ku nama edukra sila efforts ah irukattum, right? Developing the domestic economy, indigenization, even for defense, indigenization ku nama shift ஆறுது, right? So the ellame are some efforts we are taking to enhance our economic resilience. Next, technological progress, investing in research and development. Nariya countries are trying to ensure transfer of technology is taking place, improving our own technological capabilities. Idu ellame kuda India try பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கு. Next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா regional leadership. So yes, Asian continent la India wants to emerge as a leader, right? It wants to engage in ties with different countries in Asia and Southeast Asia. So இப்போ ரீசெண்டாக பார்த்தீங்கன்னா India and Philippines, they entered into greater ties in terms of their existing relationship, upgrade பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. Maritime relationship கூட இருக்கட்டும், trade-ஆவும் இருக்கட்டும், we are upgrading it, right? India also plans on having meetings with Japan, right? And we all know India, Japan, US and Australia are a part of a grouping called as Quad, right? So these are few things that we are doing. Also, if you take the West, right, we have deepened our relationship with countries like UAE, many more countries in the Middle East. So yes, West irukattum, East irukattum, with regard to East, we are also progressing towards Act East from Look East. இந்த மாதிரியான ஏகப்பட்ட initiatives நம்ம எடுத்துட்டு தான் இருக்கோம். And at the same time, what we want to do is, we want to ensure that we are free from trouble and we are looking after our own self-interest. So yes, in the context, what are the reasons why India is shifting its existing choices? So number one, US factor, China factor, and also with regard to the Russia factor. Everything matters. So China பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சராகவும் இருக்கட்டும், trying to capture local economies ஆகவும் இருக்கட்டும், China's engagement with Pakistan, this is a cause of concern. Next, Western double standards, like I already said, US is accusing India of importing crude oil as well as defense from Russia. But on the other hand, USA வந்து uranium வந்து import பண்றாங்க from Russia, which doesn't even make sense. European Union gets more amount of fossil fuels from Russia than India does. So this is complete double standards. This is not right. Next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, we also have a neighbor which is known for hosting terrorists, Pakistan. So how is that impacting us? இது எல்லாமே is important. Also வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, recently Trump had also made a statement that yes, US is going to engage with Pakistan, have a strategic relationship with them for oil exploration. Pakistan பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ஏகப்பட்ட offshore oil reserves are there which need to be explored, and he also remarked that one day India could probably buy oil from there. So இந்த மாதிரியான ஒரு country அவங்களோட இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட்டை பார்க்கும்போது, as a country we have to look out for our own interest as well, right? So yes, what should be the way forward? Number one, India should look out for its own interest, India first policy, yes, Also, we need to become Atmanirbhar, self-reliant. And yes, in the context of let us engage with different countries on different levels. So US and European Union or trade defense technology sharing, let us engage further. Next, if we talk about other regional blocks, right, for example, we should improve our position in a grouping like Quad. We should also improve our position in a grouping like BRICS. So BRICS where you have Russia and China, Quad where you have US, Japan, Australia and all other countries, right? So in the madri groupings improve our position. Next one we have to diversify our dependence. So yes, if US, if it's imposing heavy tariffs, it is going to impact agriculture and MSMEs and many more sectors. So rather than being dependent on one country, diversify, right? Engage in strategic relationships with several other countries. And next let us get into indigenization, right? Let us get into indigenization. Our research and development needs to be improved. Our technological prowess needs to improve. In the madriyana ekapata efforts needs to be taken by our country, right? So in this context, yes, the editorial discussion is done. I hope this topic is useful. Please watch the current affairs live classes starting from Monday at 11:30 a.m. Thank you. All the best.
Veranda IAS, where your dream becomes reality.